A man named Michael J., better known as Cochran, is a pilot in the United States Air Force. One day, his fellow soldiers surprise him with a farewell party as he has decided to step away from military life. After spending around 12 years in service, Cochran chooses a quieter path, wanting a more peaceful life away from duty. At that same gathering, he receives a rifle as a gift from an old friend, T.B. Mendez, a man from Mexico. Along with the gift comes an invitation asking Cochran to visit him. Before leaving, Cochran salutes his comrades, expressing his gratitude for all the years they stood and worked together.
Pricks, one and all.
The next morning, Cochran travels to Puerto Vallarta, a coastal town in Mexico known for its beautiful beaches and lively nightlife. That is where TB lives. When Cochran arrives, he finds his old friend on a tennis court. TB, now older, welcomes him warmly, clearly pleased that Cochran came all this way. But behind that friendly smile, TB is not what he seems. He is a powerful and feared arms dealer, a man who shows no mercy to anyone who dares to betray or disrespect him. Later that day, TB takes Cochran hunting near the forest. During this trip, it becomes clear how much TB cares for him. He treats Cochran not just as a friend, but almost like a son. After the hunt, Cochran's attention shifts when he sees a beautiful young woman stepping out of a car. TB introduces her as his wife, Mafia. Their eyes meet for the first time. On the surface, it feels like a simple moment, but beneath it, something begins to stir in both of them. That brief encounter becomes the beginning of something dangerous. This is revenge. From then on, Mafia often watches Cochran from a distance. Not long after, TB invites Cochran to dinner at his house. The table is filled with TB's men and their wives. In the middle of the gathering, Cochran and Mafia keep stealing glances at each other, unable to ignore the growing tension between them. However, not everyone is pleased with Cochran's presence. One of TB's men, Ibarra, along with his associate Diaz, clearly dislikes him. During dinner, Ibarra openly intimidates and humiliates Cochran, making sharp remarks meant to provoke him. Fortunately, the situation does not escalate. TB quickly steps in and pulls Ibarra away from the table, choosing to handle the matter privately as they move on to discuss their business. After stepping into another room, Ibarra reveals that one of their business partners has decided to cut ties with TB. But instead of delivering the news carefully, he goes further, openly insulting his own boss. He claims the deal fell apart because TB is incompetent and weak in communication. That moment hits hard. TB's pride as a powerful crime boss is crushed by his own subordinate. His expression changes instantly. Without hesitation, he orders his men to teach Ibarra a lesson, and just like that, Diaz is executed on the spot. The next morning, Cochran chooses to stay at a beachside house, even though TB had insisted he stay at his place. As soon as Cochran steps inside, he is caught off guard. Mafia is already there, standing on the terrace waiting for him. Cochran becomes visibly nervous. He tries to act normal and invites her inside, attempting small talk, but his nervousness gets the better of him. While preparing drinks, he fumbles badly, dropping lemons all over the floor. The moment turns awkward, and Mafia steps in to help him pick them up. But that small moment changes everything. Without fully realizing it, they begin to feel a sense of comfort around each other. Something natural, something human. Then as Cochran gently touches her hair, Mafia suddenly becomes aware of the danger they are stepping into. She pulls herself away and leaves, even though deep down, she does not want to. A few days later, TB throws a weekend party. The house fills with guests, business partners, and associates. In the middle of the chaos, Cochran unexpectedly runs into Mafia inside a dressing room. For a moment, they both freeze. Neither of them knows whether this encounter is a chance or a mistake waiting to happen. Unbeknownst to them, Ibarra sees them entering the room together. Inside, they stop holding back. Cochran locks the door, and the two give in to their feelings. From that point on, they pretend nothing ever happened. TB remains unaware, or at least he seems to be. But as time passes and the two grow closer, subtle suspicion begins to form. Eventually, they make a plan. They want to leave, to go somewhere far away where no one can disturb them. Their feelings have grown too strong, and neither of them seems to care about the risks anymore. To make it happen, Mafia sets her plan in motion. She calls her sister in Miami, asking her to pretend that she is coming to visit. What she does not realize is that the call is being listened to. TB hears everything. The moment TB hears that call, everything becomes clear to him. He feels like a fool, betrayed by his own wife. But instead of reacting immediately, he decides to confirm it with his own eyes. He goes straight to the beach house to see Cochran. There, he casually explains that he needs to leave town for a few days to handle business and asks Cochran to fly him there. Cochran refuses. He claims he already has plans to leave that same morning for a quiet retreat at a cabin, somewhere he can clear his mind. Tibby keeps pushing, insisting that Cochran come with him, but Cochran does not budge. In reality, he already has plans with Miria. That refusal tells Tibby everything he needs to know. Even so, he stays calm. There is no anger on his face, no sign of suspicion. It feels as if he is waiting, wanting to see the truth unfold in front of him. A few hours later, Miria says goodbye to her husband, sticking to their plan. She tells him she is going to Miami to visit her sister. To avoid raising suspicion, she asks Tibby to drive her to the train station. He agrees. But shortly after he leaves, Cochran shows up. Without wasting any time, the two leave together in Cochran's car. For the first time, they are free. During the drive, they enjoy every moment, laughing and embracing the escape they have been dreaming of. Hours later, they arrive at a quiet cabin. Miria looks genuinely happy, like someone who has just broken free from a cage. For once, she can live the way she wants, as long as she is with Cochran. Inside that cabin, they finally allow themselves to be together. But that moment does not last. In the middle of their intimacy, the door is suddenly forced open. Several men storm inside. It is Tibby, along with his men. There is no hesitation. Cochran is brutally beaten, and Miria is violently attacked, her face cut without mercy. After that, Tibby leaves them there and sets the cabin on fire.
Or you die.
After that, Tibby leaves them there and sets the cabin on fire. Cochran, barely alive, is dragged away and thrown onto the side of a hill, left to bleed out and die. Meanwhile, Miria is taken away. Her face disfigured, her life destroyed. She is sold to a pimp for a cheap price and forced into a life of exploitation. In Tibby's eyes, this is her punishment, a cruel and final way to strip her of any dignity she once had. No one knows how long Cochran lies unconscious in that empty wasteland. His body is barely holding on, left there to die. Then from the top of a hill, a local man notices him, lying face down on the sand. The man rushes down and approaches him. Seeing how badly injured Cochran is, he is moved by compassion. Without wasting time, he lifts Cochran onto a horse-drawn cart and takes him to an old woman, a healer trusted by the villagers. Days later, Cochran wakes up. It almost feels impossible. He comes out of his coma, still weak but alive. The man who saved him introduces himself as Morrow. As soon as Cochran regains some awareness, he asks Morrow to take him back to the cabin, the last place he saw Miria. But when they arrive, there is nothing left. The cabin has been completely burned to the ground, and even worse, Cochran has no idea where Miria is or what has happened to her. A few days pass, and Cochran slowly begins to recover. Morrow, worried for his safety, urges him to leave the village as soon as possible. He knows that if TB finds out Cochran is still alive, there is no way he will let him leave Mexico alive. But Cochran refuses. He makes it clear that he will not leave until he finds Miria. Seeing his determination, Morrow decides to help. He gives Cochran an address, the location of TB's base in a place called Durango. At the same time, Miria's condition is revealed. The life she once had, surrounded by luxury and status, is gone. In its place is something far more painful, a life filled with suffering and humiliation. Not long after, Morrow takes Cochran to the edge of the border. Before they part ways, Morrow hands him a small knife, hoping it might help him when the time comes. Once alone, Cochran continues on his journey. Along the way, he comes across an older man who has fallen after losing control of his horse. Cochran helps him up, and the man introduces himself as Texan. Grateful for the help, Texan invites him for a drink at a nearby bar. Inside, Texan keeps asking about Cochran's destination. Cochran eventually reveals that he is heading to Durango. By coincidence, Texan is also going there to deliver horses to a client, and he offers Cochran a ride. Before they leave, Cochran notices something. One of TB's men walks into the bar. Then quietly follows the man into the restroom. Standing beside him, Cochran watches closely. The man grows uneasy, sensing something is off, but it is already too late. Without hesitation, Cochran strikes first. He kills him quickly, finishing the job before anyone else can notice. Then he calmly walks out, gets into the car, and leaves with Texan, continuing his journey toward Durango. As the journey to Durango continues, Cochran and Texan take turns driving. At one point, Cochran notices something is wrong. Texan has fallen completely still. He is gone. With no other choice, Cochran buries him on the side of the road, giving him a proper farewell. After that, he returns to the car and finds Texan's belongings, a weapon and some cash. He takes them and continues his journey, eventually stopping at a roadside motel to rest. At the same time, back at TB's place, Ibarra reports that one of their men has been found dead in a bar near the border. The suspicion immediately falls on Cochran. They have also heard rumors about an American man who survived and was treated by locals. That night, while Cochran is asleep, he is suddenly awakened by a knock on his door. Instinctively, he grabs his gun and approaches carefully. A man stands outside, claiming he was sent by Morrow to help him find Mireya. Cochran does not trust him at first. He keeps his weapon raised, ready for anything. But when the man mentions the knife Morrow gave him, Cochran realizes he might be telling the truth. The man introduces himself as Amador, and Cochran finally lets him in. Inside the room, Cochran makes one thing clear. He wants information about Mireya. Amador agrees to help, as that was exactly what Morrow had asked him to do. A few days later, Amador returns, this time with his cousin, Ignacio. They bring news. Mireya is alive, but she has been placed in a brothel. Unfortunately, that is all they know. They have no idea where the place is located. Frustrated, Cochran decides to search on his own. But before he can leave, Amador and Ignacio stop him. They know he is acting out of desperation, and they do not let him go alone. Meanwhile, Mireya's situation grows even worse. Inside an unknown brothel, she is being abused by a client. But this time she fights back. In the middle of the struggle, she manages to grab a knife and stabs him. At the same time, Cochran, Amador, and Ignacio begin searching different brothels. Eventually, they arrive at one location, only to learn that it was the place where Mireya was first taken after being sold. The woman in charge tells them that Mireya has already been moved to a more exclusive location, a place reserved for wealthy clients. Hearing this only fuels Cochran's anger. Amador tries to negotiate and asks for the address, but the woman breaks down in tears. She does not know where Mireya was taken. With no leads left, they have no choice but to walk away. Back to Mireya, her condition continues to deteriorate. The physical and emotional trauma she has endured leaves her severely ill. Seeing this, TB orders his trusted man Ibarra to move her to a monastery, making sure she receives proper care to recover, at least physically. Not long after, TB visits the monastery himself. There he confronts a man who works at the place. From a priest, TB learns that this man was the last person who had been with Mireya. The moment he hears that, his anger takes over. Without hesitation, he orders his men to execute the man on the spot. Elsewhere, Amador admits to Cochran that he still has no information about the location of the brothel. He has asked around, but everyone remains silent, too afraid to say anything. With no leads left, Cochran realizes there is only one option. He has to go directly to TB. He plans to face him alone and tells Amador to return to the border. But Amador refuses. He insists on staying and helping until Mireya is found. Then Cochran comes up with a plan. He remembers TB's routine, his regular hunting trips near the forest not far from his home. So they head there and wait. Once they arrive, Cochran tells Amador and Ignacio to hide, while he stays out in the open, sitting beneath a tree, waiting. It does not take long. TB arrives along with his men. One of them spots Cochran from a distance and slowly rides up the hill, raising his rifle, ready to shoot. But before he can pull the trigger, Amador and Ignacio step out from the bushes and kill him. Now, with no way out, TB finally gives in. For the first time, he shows fear. He accepts what is happening and asks Cochran to promise one thing, to take his wife far away from him. Deep down, he knows their relationship is beyond saving. Cochran wastes no time. He leaves the forest and heads straight to the monastery, where Mireya lies weak and helpless. When he finally sees her, she is barely holding on. With what little strength she has left, she asks to be taken outside, to feel the fresh air one last time. The happiness she once felt when she first met Cochran may have been the only true happiness she ever knew. But everything has changed, and both of them understand that there is no way back. Moments later, after expressing her love, Mireya passes away. So the moral of the story is if your rich mafia friend invites you for a peaceful vacation, maybe don't flirt with his wife, because that trip might turn into a full survival mode DLC with zero respawns.